Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life Stories. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Shara Goswick, your host. Today on the podcast, I speak with Elie. Tia started a nonprofit called Acts of Kindness New Hampshire. She and her team are doing incredible things with the homeless community in her area. And it started with our word of the week.
It's the word of the week.
Our word of the week is hello. All of this got started because Tia took a chance. She took a step and said hello to a homeless man that was behind her shop. She talks about how she was a little bit intimidated, she was a little bit scared. And I think we have all felt that way before, but she points out some really important lessons that she's learned. And I think we could all learn from just reaching out and showing love to these people that they don't have places to live, or they're hurting in a lot of other ways. I love what she's doing because she's not just meeting a need. She's not just handing out a coat or giving food, which is important. Those are important things, but she's meeting these people right where they are, and she's walking with them, literally walking with them on their journey. And you'll hear about it today when you listen. I thank you for being here. Have a great day.
Well, Jenny told me about your nonprofit, and I talk to people all over the world, but I have a goal to speak to someone in every state who is helping other people. And so I talk to a lot of people that run nonprofits, a lot of people that volunteer for nonprofits. I've talked to authors. I've spoken to a lot of different things. And so you were the first person that she pointed out and told me about your nonprofit, which is Acts of Kindness in New Hampshire. And so I want you to tell me why you started that and what you do with it.
So I'll tell you the reason why we started it was because probably like a lot of people out there, we've seen there's a huge spike in homeless activity in the Manchester area. Mm-hmm. So basically whenever you're walking down the streets, and I know this might have been normal for other bigger cities, but in New Hampshire, we're kind of a small state. Mm-hmm. That wasn't something we were used to seeing, people like sleeping on the sidewalk with blankets. And so that's probably been going on for about 5 years now. And since I've seen it before you saw it in movies, but it wasn't real, you know what I mean? And then when it hits your hometown, it's like, oh, this is real. So I'm a hairdresser, so we like to talk, right? So we talked to all my clients and stuff. We're like, oh, we should do something. And that actually probably went on for about 4 years. And then I own a salon in Manchester. So I was outside of my salon and there was this beautiful soul. And I don't know if you like how you feel about energy, but like there's just certain people that I'm like, oh my God, he's such a beautiful soul. Like I don't know him. He's bent over. He was like sweeping up the back near my trash cans and stuff. And I just was like, oh, I need to get to know him, but I didn't know how to approach like, hey, can we talk? Or if he'd be mad at me or if he didn't want to talk to me. I guess I was scared, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I consider myself a very educated woman. And now like looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, Tia, you're crazy. But so that happened, we would say hi or whatever and leave it at that. One day he was actually in front of my salon and he asked me, how are you doing today? And I said, I'm good. How are you? And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna, and he, again, not the right question to ask someone who, when it's 20 degrees out and you're like, how are you?
Right.
Probably a little cold. That's what he said. That I'm doing good, but I'm cold. And I'm like, oh, my heart broke, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally need to get him. So I came into my salon. I got mittens and sweatshirts and blankets that we use for pictures. And I'm like, here, hopefully this helps you tonight. And he's like, oh my God, you're so sweet. Like, thank you so much, whatever. And so then I was like, how did this happen? And he kind of told me a story like 5 years ago. He fell on hard times and he was doing awesome. And then one thing after another. And kind of when you get into that, like, slope of having bad things happen, it just continues. And he ended up becoming homeless. And I was like, oh my goodness. So talking to him, then we start talking daily, right? Because he's always outside and he's sweeping. And I'm like, why do you sweep up the back alley? And he's like, well, I kind of feel like I live here. And he calls them his comrades, which are his friends, right? He's like, my comrades sometimes, leave things that I don't want out here because there's animals and kids and I don't want them to get hurt on them. And I'm like, oh, what a beautiful soul. You know what I mean? So him and I talked and we became friends. And then I told my girls, I have 2 girls that I went to college with. Their name's Amy and Sam. And we were out to dinner and that was in November. And I'm like, we need to do something. Like, I don't know what we can do, but I know I can get girls together. So what if we just do a dinner We charge them each $10 to come in. We have like some fun fundraisers, and then all that money we donate towards the homeless. I said, and so my girlfriend Sam's like, we're gonna do a 5013C, and I was like, okay, I don't really care about that. I just want the money to go there. But
Right.
she's like, that way we can do it legally, and we can obviously use it to tax write-offs too. So I said, okay. I'm like, that sounds like a great idea. So we literally made our 5013C, and everything was up and running by April 1st. So April 1st was when we started. Part of our bylaws are basically we're 100% nonprofit. So when I talk to people, like, if you want to come join our nonprofit, this is awesome. You're not getting paid at all. Actually, it's probably going
Right.
to cost you money. But I'm like, I'm just saying, if you want to bring someone out to dinner, you do that. But we're not paying for that. But all of the money. So it's been such a blessing. So since October, we've raised at least like $1,000 every month. And we've from there we've well, I can tell you what did. I don't know what your next question is, but that's how we started it, because his name's Fadze Gowo. Still love him. He's like my favorite person. Everybody knows that. I'm like, Fadze is the reason why we actually opened this whole organization, and all of the help, which I can tell you about, like numbers and stuff that we've done. All of everything that we've done, from saving lives to handing out blankets to handing out food, is because he talked to me.
Right.
And then I realized, oh my goodness, they're human beings. Like, they have conversations. And I love relationships, so I can't believe it took me so long for that. But yeah.
So on your website, you talked about how you walk on the journey with these people, and what does that mean exactly? Besides just giving them food or whatever it is you're giving, what does that mean to walk on a journey with them?
So what when we decided to be, we needed to do we wanted to do something, and we decided we need to do something different. So our whole thing is really, we meet them where they're at, and everybody's at a different spot, and that's what I think makes our organization a little different. So we meet them where they're at. We actually get to know them. Everybody knows about the financial poverty, like people don't have food, they don't have the house, they don't have that, but no one really talks about the relationship poverty. And that's like, they don't have relationships, right? They don't have people that talk to them, because like I said, I consider myself a very educated person, and I didn't even know how to communicate with them
Right.
until spots. And then I was like, oh, so now we'll go to like the park, and we'll sit on the bench, and we're like, hey, come on over here. And they'll sit down, and I'll be like, so what's going on? Like, and some people, we have all different, and why we decided to meet them where they're at was because at first I'm like, oh, we'll get them all houses. Well, they'll all be in housing. They'll all have food. Like, we're going to solve all of the world's problems. And, but then when you get to know them, that's not what everyone wants. So I'm like, oh, this actually is your life. You get to make a choice on that, right? So we decided to meet them where they're at and bring them to where they need to go. And that journey is different for everybody. And that's what I'm saying. We walk the journey with them. So it's not like we're like, oh, here's food, and then we kind of forget about it and like don't think, like no, we keep in contact with them. We have, whether they have a cell phone, or most of them will actually have like, you kind of know where they're going to stay, because even though they're homeless, they kind of have a designated spot where where they are. So I have one guy that's at the park that absolutely love him. And him and I sat down, and we've cried together. We've, laughed together. And he wants to be done with his alcohol. It's done a lot for, it's wrecked a lot of lives, you know what I mean, for him. So I'm like, okay, let's do that. What does that look like to you? So he's ready to go into rehab, and that's what he wants. But then I have another guy that we talked to, that is, he's homeless, but he lives in a tent in an encampment. And when him and I talked, he's like, I like living outside. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to go in and be like, hey, no, you're living in this house, because it's your life, right? Like, if you like living outside, you like living in tent. Okay, well, how can we make this journey easier for you? Like, what can we do as an organization to make the journey easier for you? So we, with the encampment, we've actually gotten food donated, and we make sure that we're like, okay, hey, I have food. Can you come down and grab it and bring it up to the people that are up in the encampment, so that they're not going hungry? You know what I mean? So that's what I mean by their journey. Some people need social security card, license, birth certificate. Some people don't need that stuff. Some people just need someone to talk to. They just need someone to actually like communicate with them, or give them advice. I have a girl that she actually comes to the salon all the time now, because she knows where I work, but she'll come in, she's like, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, yes. And she just needs someone to bounce ideas off of, so that she feels like she's making the right decision. So with her, I'm like, okay, we'll call her Donna. That's not her real name, but okay, Donna, let's talk about that. So what do you think you should do? And then I'm like, okay, well, do you think this would be a good idea for that? And what if that happened? So you just give her idea. So she's really making the decision herself, but you're helping her, guiding her, and she didn't have that person in her life before. Acts of kindness. So
That's
there's
awesome.
all different realms of what help is, right? Some people
Right.
it's relational, some people it's financial. Obviously clothing, boots. We live in New Hampshire, so it's a little different than Texas where you're
Yes.
from. It's a little colder, so we have that winter weather that you're getting, a foot of snow, and they need some boots, they need a warm jacket, they need blankets, they need, so it's not only just food, it's they need a bathroom. Like, think about that. Like, just the simple things. Like, where do I go to the bathroom that they have to think about every day that we don't have to think about, most of us? Where do I brush my teeth? How about I gave them toothbrushes and toothpastes and they didn't have water to brush their teeth with? I'm like, wow, that's something I didn't think about because I just turned this faucet on. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I mean, like their journey. You have a bad tooth. Okay, what do we have to do? This is what happened today. Why I was a little late for the podcast. The bad tooth comes in. All right, now they have to go to the doctor. The doctor has to say, oh yeah, you have a bad tooth. The doctor has to give them a referral to the dentist so that we can go see a dentist to fix the tooth, whether it's an abscess, a cavity, or, do you know what I mean? So there's just so many hoops that they have to jump through that they're still trying to figure out their basic everyday needs. It's hard to jump through those hoops on top of understanding where am I going to sleep tonight? Where am I going to be safe? You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. Say we walk the journey with them.
So have you found that there are some people that don't want any help? I mean, I know some people don't want housing, or they don't want, like you said, the man likes living where he lives. Have you found anybody that says like they don't want anything?
I have not found one
No.
person. I found one person that I've met on the street that doesn't want anything. Like even communication, like just heartbreaks, right? So many times when I'm like, hey, how are you doing? And they're like, oh, thank you for talking to me. Like that, like even if it's just a conversation that like, and I'm like, talking to you, I'll talk to everybody. I love talking. And they're like, no, most people walk by us like we're cockroaches and pretend they don't see us. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, that hurts my heart. Do you know what I mean? So I haven't found anyone. Has there been a time when I said, hey, do you want a water? And they said no? Yeah, I will tell you, the unsheltered community that I worked with, and it might just be because I'm like kind of a crazy happy person, so I just might attract those people, right? They will not take it if they don't need it. Does that make sense? So yeah, they've said to me like, no, I don't need water. And some people get offended with that, but I'm like, if they have water, then they're not going to take water. If they have food, they're not going to take the food. They will take it and give it to someone. I'll give you another example of a story that, again, I was just like, wow, I don't think that would happen in our everyday world. One of my friend Fads that I told you we started the whole organization about earlier, he used to stay out back. So I had we give away these little goodie bags, right, that had like granola bar, a water, a chapstick, soap, deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrush, all these little goodie things for them to like get hygiene for the next day, right? So him and I talked earlier that day when I came in. He's like, oh, I said, I'll leave you your granola bar after. And he's like, okay. Well, he wasn't here when I left. So I was like, wait, what? Where did he go? Well, there were two other people that I met that he introduced me to. And I said, hey, do you think you can? And so she said, who are you looking for? I'm like, oh, Fads. I call him a track star because he likes to run for me, right? I'm like, where'd he go? He's a track star. And she goes, oh, he'll be back later. I said, yeah, but I gotta go because I was leaving the salon. And she's like, oh, just give it to me and I'll give it to him. So I gave it to her, of course, because it was a bag full, and I'm like, whatever. But I'm thinking in my head, like, oh, she's going to save it for tomorrow. She's going to have breakfast tomorrow morning. She'll have her little bar tonight and then a bar tomorrow, right? This is my bad head. I'm thinking that. And then, so I'm like, all right, here you go, whatever. If Fads gets it, great. If he doesn't, he doesn't. So I see Fads the next day and he's like, oh, thank you for my bag. I got it from the girl. And I was like, it literally blew my mind because I'm like, I don't know. If I didn't know where my next meal was coming from, I didn't know if I gave that back to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. It's a beautiful community. Like, they are beautiful. They like definitely take care of each other. So
what do you wish people understood? Because like you said, you were afraid to talk to him because you just didn't know how. And I think everybody, I think a lot of people feel like that, if not, people that haven't worked with the homeless. But what do you wish people understood?
I honestly think that I think there's a couple things that I wish people understood. I think that when you're working with the homeless community, they don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
that's the one thing that worked for me, because they know that I truly love them, like with all my heart, and I would do anything for them. And you know what I mean? And so that made them trust me, because there's not a lot of trust in that, you know what I mean? Like, because people let them down all the time. So I think that that's one thing I would want people to know. And I think the other thing is that they're humans. They, you know, they need love, they need trust, they need communication. They need just every need that we need, along with the other needs of basic, you know, basic shelter,
Right.
keeping warm, food and stuff that we all think about. But like, that relationship poverty is really huge for me. And I started this whole journey with the financial poverty, right? And I found that, wow, they really need to just talk to someone and know we care.
Yeah.
And I always say, we have these t-shirts that are made, and it says, it's not homed versus homeless, it's us versus homelessness. And if we can break down that silly wall that we have between your home to your home, like, really, it doesn't matter how much money you make. That doesn't make you worth a person. That doesn't make you worth your worth any better, whether you have millions in the bank or don't. And I think that's what I would want people to know, that they have hearts, they have families, they have they also have addiction issues, they also have mental illnesses, they also have, do you know what I mean? Like, but
Right.
so does our family. The other weird thing that I was talking about is, you know, it used to say that we're 6 people apart from everybody in the world. Well, it's actually now 4 people apart because of Facebook. So think about that you're like 4 people apart from a person that's homeless, right? And what changed for me is when I met Fadze, and I realized, like, oh my God, I love him. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love him. He's such a beautiful person. That changed my whole world to, like, this is crazy. And then I met George. I've met so many amazing, I've met so many amazing people on the way that are beautiful people that I would have never had the opportunity to even know, more than likely, if it wasn't for Fads, like, saying, how are you doing today? And me answering incorrectly, saying, good, how are you?
That's awesome.
So I think that's what I want people to know, is that they're human. They're people. They are there the grumpy ones out there, but yeah, there are grumpy people out there. You know, we walk by the street all the time. When your energy's matched, like, say hi. Do you know what I mean? Or look at them. There's another study that they actually did that blew my mind too. It says that they dressed up their family members into looking like a homeless person and put them on the side of the street, and then they walked their family members by them, and not one person recognized, like, that was their mom or their brother or their sister. And that is because we don't look at them, because we don't want to see them. We want to pretend they're not there, right? But if we could just all help each other, I mean, we're all, you know, it's a humanity thing, right? It's a humanity problem. It's, if we could just see them and talk to them and say, you know, what do you need? And you'd be surprised, most of them won't say, you know, oh, I need money. Most of them will be like, thank you for talking to me.
Wow. Yeah.
So I
So
think
simple.
it is. It's just love, right? It's all about loving. That's how I think we're going to get out of this problem, is by loving people, not by, we're not arresting our way out of this problem.
Right.
We're not, you know, the money they spend on cops and stuff, they could have built houses and, you know, made people feel important. So.
Well, you kind of answered my next question. I was going to ask, you know, for somebody that can't start a nonprofit or doesn't have, you know, want to start this huge thing, what could they do to help the homeless community? I know there's places everywhere that are helping the homeless, but what can somebody do?
Depending on where you're at, I mean, obviously you can donate to, you know, you can donate to Acts of Kindness. We have a webpage, which is aoknh.com. I'd love everyone going there, you know, and check that out. So you can donate there. Know 100% of your money. There's no one gets paid on our organization. We all do this for free. So 100% of your money goes to homeless folks. So there's those things that you can do. There's, and that's again why I love our organization, because I realize people in general can serve on different ways, right? So I have people that never want to be out in the parks with me and talking to people. They're like, oh my goodness, but it hurts their heart. But they will come to the dinner and they will give us money, or they're like, oh, I'll make the bags with you, Tia. So they make the bags, and so I'm like, okay, but they don't ever want to go out and grab that bag and give it to someone. Where I'm like, oh my God, give me the bags. I want to go and give it to someone. Do you know what I mean? Like, so we all have our part that we play. That's and great. Not one person is any bigger or smaller, because without all of us, this doesn't, do you know what I mean? Like, none of this happened. That's, sorry, what was the question, girlfriend?
Well, I was just asking, if what advice would you give someone who wanted to get involved somehow?
So definitely you could do that. You could also do, I mean, I'm sure there's places in your area that has the same nonprofit. For me, I would just make sure, this is why we started the nonprofit, because I was giving to other nonprofits and I was realizing like people were making $100,000 a year and I'm like, wait, no, that's money that we could be buying a house for that, you know? So make sure it's a nonprofit that, you know, the money is actually going where it says it is, first of all.
Right.
So the second thing that you could do is you can donate your clothes. Like where do you put your clothes? Like a lot of people around here, they have Savers and they have Goodwill even.
Right.
My clients now all bring their clothes here and they know they go right from this place to someone either at the park or the shelter or someone that needs it. So I have clients that, you know, do LLB in this and they have nice clothes. Yeah, I'll go give them a Columbia jacket. It's
Right.
another thing I like. Don't judge what they're wearing because most of that is donated.
Right.
Like his shoes, I'm like, I can't even afford that. You know, I'm like, oh, okay, that's donated. You could definitely do donations, put your donations into the homeless community or the unsheltered community. And that's everything from tents that are in your garage that you aren't using to flashlights to backpacks to clothes to boots. Well, maybe not where you are. We don't get that much snow, but we got boots up here, mittens, hats, anything I get donations for, and we hand them right out to the community. So that's something that's easy. And honestly, again, if you're like me and you just like to talk, just say hi.
Yeah.
Just like, hi, how are you doing today? And if they're like, you know, I'm good. Okay, well, that's probably not someone you want to talk to, but I read energy. So I'm like, when I walk by someone and they smile and I smile, I'm like, how are you doing? I know they're, you know, and then we have this little conversation, like they're like, oh, you know, and we'll just have a conversation about whatever they want to talk about, not what I want to talk about, what they want to talk about because it's their time. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I love it. What is your favorite thing about what you're doing? Is it meeting with the people, talking to them and just being present, or?
I think it's paychecks of my heart, which I know sounds kind of bad. But I think, meeting with them, talking with them, meeting them where they're at, and just coming over a simple goal as getting a social security card. And they're psyched. Like they're like, oh, I haven't had this. And okay, where are we putting this? Do you know what I mean? So, all right, what's our next step? I call them eating frogs because a long time ago, I read a book that said, eat your frog in the morning. So basically the book says, if you have to eat a frog every day, eat it in the morning. And then that way you don't think about it all day. Because a lot of the community, I don't want to say they procrastinate, but there's so much they have to worry about, like where to go, like all the wheres to and what to's, that to go do something easy, like go to the Social Security office and fill out paperwork without someone is overwhelming even more.
Oh, I'm sure.
But when I'm like, come meet me, and we type it in the computer, like I sit here and we type it together, I'm like, all right, it's going to be mailed. We'll get it in 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's seeing their paychecks from my heart, because it definitely helps my heart. But the other thing is also seeing their excitement when they're like, oh, I did that. I'm like, you did that. Like, look at you. Or like, I wouldn't have done that without you trying to give me the credit. I'm like, no. You did the hard work. I did the easy work. I just said, let's do this. You were the one that showed up. You know what I mean? So I think that's like seeing them realize their own power, like their own worth. That's a blessing too. We actually just did haircuts at the shelter the other day, and watching the men and women from doing a haircut in a style from like, you know, being like, oh, la, and then they're like, oh, look at, like, that's me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I look at me. And that actually was a blessing again, because of Fod's, I'm like, come on, we're getting a haircut. And we actually gave him a cut and he's like checking himself in the mirror. And I'm like, oh, you see you? Like that like we take for granted. We go get our haircut and get our hair done, like whatever, every 6 weeks, right? That it was like the biggest deal ever that we went in and gave them haircuts.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome. I love what you're doing, because you're not just feeding people that don't know where their next meal's coming from. You're not just giving them coats when they're cold. You're not just providing needs that they have. Those are legitimate needs, but you're being present in their lives. And that's so much more important. I mean, those other things are important, but what you're doing, I think, is just, it's beautiful, because that's a big deal to somebody that, I mean, I can't imagine how overwhelming that would be to have to take those steps to do whatever it is they need to do it by themselves. That was scary, I'm sure. So I love what you're doing. I think it's amazing. You've told me a lot of stories already, but is there another like memorable thing that you remember that has stood out to you, or maybe a moment when, well, you told me that in the beginning, when you knew, okay, this is what I want to do. I
mean, honestly, like I said, FODS was definitely a huge part of that, bringing me into my my life journey, right? Because I was like, oh wow. I mean, there's been many stories of, bringing, I can tell you, we brought a 28-year-old to the hospital, which again, I didn't know about this because I don't know a lot about drugs and stuff. And again, you don't have to know everything, but you have to start, right? Just get started. That's what I guess my thing is start somewhere and you figure it out as you go along. And when you have, we're blessed, we have like 70 or 80 people behind us right now. So having those people behind us, like we figure it out together. But we actually, he's 28 years old. Unfortunately, he overdosed on he was going into rehab that next morning. He was supposed to meet me at 10. I was there waiting for him and he never showed up. And I was like, oh my goodness. And that's unfortunately, again, sometimes it's getting places or, just ending up in the wrong, oversleeping. They don't have alarm clock. There's a lot of that can get frustrating for me because I'm always like, it's 11 o'clock, so I'm waiting. He doesn't show up. I text him. He's like, I'm on my way. I'm like, okay. 30 minutes later, he doesn't show up. I'm like, okay, I need to go get, I have that job that's paycheck to the heart, but then I need my other job that is paycheck to the, pays my bills. Yeah. So, I said, I have to go. Like, where are you? What do you want me to come grab you? And no answer. Called them, no answer. So I'm like, he probably changed his mind. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with someone who's addicted to stuff, that sometimes happens. Like myself, I change my mind every Tuesday. I don't want to be on a diet anymore. Monday I do, but Tuesday I don't. To me too, I get it. So he says, so he doesn't answer. Literally an hour and a half later, I get a call from him and I'm like, hey, where are you? And he's like, I just OD'd. And I was like, what? My friends just gave me 4 Narcan. I'm back. I'm good. I'm ready to go. I'm like, okay. So I go get him because I'm having, heart palpitations of like, oh my gosh, you're 28. Like your whole entire life's ahead of you. You don't even, I know you think life is bad, but your whole life is ahead of you. You're 28, I then find out when I bring him to go to the rehab that you can get, I guess, overdose because the Narcan, after it wears off, your opioid receptors actually can have more, like too much drugs held in them that it can re-overdose you after your Narcan runs off. So I have to bring him to the hospital. He does not want to go to the hospital. None of them like the hospital. I will tell you that. None of them like to go to the doctor. None of them like to take care of themselves. Let's be clear. I'm like, we're going. This is what we're doing. So thank God again, because they know how much I care. They trust me. And I'm like, I will stay there every single step of the way. I will not leave you. I will be there. I will be in the room with you. Like I will hold your hand if you need me to. And we did. We went to the hospital with them. And unfortunately, he did re-overdose. I mean, the opioid receptors, because he took so much, he did come back through. They had to give him more. His breathing was on and off, on and off. Thank God he actually is still here today. And then we got him into rehab that day. So that was beautiful. There's been one that we've got. One of our people were having a heart attack. Feet were swollen like 4 times too much. And his blood pressure was really high. Obviously these are things that happen on the street, right? Because you're not eating foods and stuff like that. So, but it was petrified at the hospital as well. I'm like, I will sleep there if I have to with you. So went into the hospital with him, I literally was like sleeping on the bed like this. He's passed out in the bed. But thank God it wasn't that. It was just something going on with the heat in his feet and swelling. So we fixed that problem. So like that part, I do, again, it's being present in their life, right? Like I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. Some of them probably wish I went away.
Sorry. I doubt that. Well, I love what you're doing. Like I said, when you think of helping the homeless, you think of providing coats and providing blankets and but I love what you're doing. It's so important. And so I'm very thankful that I got to talk to you. What is that?
I just wanted to show you this one, which is I have a better one on my thing and I can send it to you. But this is just things because that's where we started, right? We started doing that and this. But so we've done social security cards, birth certificates, photo IDs, transport people to and from the hospital. It's another thing that's huge in the community. If you can transport, because they get back and forth, picked up prescriptions for people that needed like diabetic prescriptions that couldn't get to them. So we went and grabbed them. So like they would not be here if they didn't have that. We've assisted in errands like, oh, I need to go to Walmart to get this, or do you know what I mean? rehab obviously is a huge thing, getting people into rehab, and that's my thing because I don't want them addicted to anything.
Right.
We've met vets, we got them into vet housings, we've gotten people into transitional housings, programs. So the programs that we have around here is like FIT, it's like a family and transitions for people that have families. So
Yeah.
we've gotten a pregnant woman and her husband into that. So no, they're not on the street anymore, they're in that. We've gotten medical intervention, as I told you. There's been quite a few of them for people that wouldn't be here anymore in New Hampshire if we didn't, if it didn't exist, if AOK didn't exist. We gave out over 250 kindness bags, which are those bags that I talk about that I love giving out. Those are my favorite. Food, we distribute food to people, and that's with encampments as well as the parks, water, because it is really hot up here. And then a lot of emotional support. So those are things that we kind of keep track of. Like what are we doing on a daily? And it's a blessing, but I keep track of it now because, you know, people want to know, like, where's our money going? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
That's
I
good,
keep track
though.
of that, and I put these up every month. Like, this is what we did this month, and every month it gets bigger and bigger. And the blessing is, I have to also tell you is that we don't only work with just acts of kindness. We also have bridged that gap between the homed and the homeless. Do you know what I mean? The homed and the unhoused. We've actually us all working on both sides. Like, so we have a lot of the people that would be considered unhoused that are working like out doing the same thing that we're doing with acts of kindness, and or even with us in the parks with us. So it's like they see, oh, they know blah blah blah. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, they must be good people. So that's, I think, why our organization has like come so far so fast, because we really started April 1st, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's not very long.
But blessed,
I would
right?
have thought it would have been longer than that, but that's amazing.
Yeah, when I have people coming up to me shelter and say, you do more for us than they do, I'm like, oh, thank you, but but I mean, I like learn the loopholes, and like I said, the whole dental thing, I just told the shelter about. They're like, oh wait, we didn't know that. I'm like, how do you not know this? There's 50 people that sleep here, and you have an engagement center that holds 200 people. How do you not know how to do that little circle? You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's okay. We're all learning together, I
That's
guess.
right. That is right. Well, I thank you for sharing this with me today. I'm excited to get this out there and tell everybody about it. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you for talking
Okay.
to me, and you have a
Sure.
great day too, love.
Okay.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.